I usually avoid controversy, and I know this isn't a popular opinion, but I'm going to speak through it today. What if I told you that you do not need to manifest your dream life? You do not have to create the perfect vision board or repeat a particular affirmation or believe that thinking about something intensely enough will cause the universe to deliver it. But you do have to believe that what you want is possible, not guaranteed, not inevitable, but possible. You cannot think your way into a new life. But if you have already decided that change is impossible, you probably won't take the actions or steps required to create it. You will hesitate, you will hold back, you will treat every setback as confirmation that you were foolish to even try. You may procrastinate, over-prepare, or keep your idea so private that no one ever has the opportunity to respond to it. But belief's not magic, and it is not a substitute for action, but it does affect the actions that you're willing to take, particularly when the results are not showing up yet. That is why we are talking about manifestation today. Not how to manifest success, but why believing something is possible can change how you pursue it. Welcome to Second Act Simplified. I'm Jamie, and this podcast is for busy women in midlife who are ready to explore what comes next, whether that means starting a business, pursuing a creative project, making a career change, or improving your health, or just finally giving a long-held idea a real chance. All right, so what do we mean by manifestation? Before we go any further, let's define manifestation because the word is used in many different ways. At its most basic level, manifestation means focusing your thoughts, intentions, and attention on something you want to bring into life. That might involve visualizing a desired outcome or writing down goals, repeating affirmations, creating a vision board, or speaking as though the outcome is already possible. For some people, manifestation is simply a way to clarify what they want and keep their attention focused on it. Used that way, it looks a lot like goal setting. When you identify what you want, you picture what it might look like, and remind yourself why it matters, you're more likely to recognize the relevant opportunities and take real action. For others, manifestation is connected to the law of attraction, the belief that your thoughts, emotions, personal energy attracts experiences into your life. In that version, positive thoughts are believed to attract positive outcomes, while negative thoughts may attract unwanted outcomes. This is where my perspective is different. I don't believe that wanting something or visualizing it or thinking positively guarantees that it's going to happen. We do not control every circumstance, and difficult experiences aren't proof that someone thought the wrong thought or failed to believe strongly enough. However, I do believe that what we repeatedly think affects what we notice, what we attempt, and how we respond when something becomes difficult. If creating a vision board helps you clarify your goal, that can be really helpful. If visualizing yourself giving a presentation helps you prepare and feel less intimidated when you start, that's great. It's very useful. If an affirmation helps you believe that a challenge has kept you stuck, that can be useful. But the value is not that these practices magically deliver the outcome. The value is that they can influence your focus, your preparation, your decisions, and your behavior. So in other words, manifestation practices really might help you identify and pursue what you want, but they don't remove the need to actually pursue it. I want to begin this episode to be clear about my perspective. I don't teach manifestation. I don't believe that we can simply think something into existence. I don't believe that every outcome is within our control. There are circumstances and they matter. Money matters, health matters, timing, opportunity, having access, responsibilities, and honestly, luck can all affect what happens. I also do not believe that someone's failure to achieve a goal proves that she didn't want it enough, or she didn't have enough positive thoughts, or she wasn't aligned correctly. That idea can be unrealistic and, in some cases, cruel. But I do believe that our expectations influence our behavior. When we believe an outcome is at least possible, we are more likely to make the attempt to do it or talk about it, learn the necessary skills, recover from the rejection, and stay with the work long enough to improve. I don't think that's manifestation. That is connection between your belief, your behavior, and being persistent. You cannot simply think your way into a different life. There is something attractive about the idea that our thoughts can create our reality. It gives us a sense of control during times when life feels uncertain, and I think daily life is pretty uncertain. If we can find the correct affirmation mindset or visualization, maybe we can guarantee the result, or maybe we could avoid the uncomfortable parts. But a vision without action is just a vision. You can picture yourself starting a business, but eventually you need to decide what you're selling and then ask somebody to pay for it. You can imagine writing a book, but eventually you have to sit down and write the words. You may not be really good at it at first. You can visualize yourself changing careers, but eventually you have to update your resume, develop new skills, speak with people, be interviewed, and submit the application. Thinking about the outcome may help you identify what you want. It can help you stay focused and remember why the work matters, but it's not going to perform the work for you. The vision can point you into a specific direction, but it's not going to walk the path. Positive thinking doesn't remove real-life obstacles. I also think we need to be honest about the limits of positive thinking. Believing yourself does not eliminate financial limitations. It doesn't create more hours in your day. It doesn't instantly give you skills that you haven't learned or remove responsibilities you can't just ignore. Some women are trying to build something while working full-time. They may also be caring for children and helping aging parents, managing a home, dealing with health concerns, or simply trying to just get enough sleep each day. Telling a woman in that position to think positively isn't a useful plan. Real obstacles require real responses. If time is the obstacle, you need to decide what can be reduced, delegated, delayed, or completed differently. If money's the obstacle, you need to begin more slowly, change your scope, save up towards the goal, or find a less expensive way to test your idea. If your skills are the obstacle, you may need training or practice or just help from somebody else who knows more about it than you do. If the first approach doesn't work, you may need to change the approach without abandoning the entire goal. So belief doesn't make your obstacle disappear. It allows you to look for a path through, around, or sometimes away from them. Your beliefs definitely influence your behavior. Imagine two women with similar ideas and similar levels of experience. The first woman believes her idea has a reasonable chance of working. She doesn't know exactly how it will turn out, but she thinks it's worth testing. The second woman wants the same thing, but she's convinced nobody will care, that she started too late in life, or that other people are already way too far ahead of her. The first woman is likely to share her idea, ask good questions, publish before anything is perfect, and learn from that response. The second woman might just keep researching. She may constantly revise the plan. She's going to wait until she feels more qualified. When one person responds negatively or something performs poorly, she treats it as proof that her original fears were correct and they were founded. The difference is not that the first woman magically attracted success. It's that she created more opportunities to learn, connect, improve, and eventually she succeeded. Her beliefs changed her behaviors. This is where our expectations can become self-fulfilling, although not in a mystical way. If you believe failure is inevitable, you may begin behaving in a way that makes failure pretty likely. If you avoid visibility, fewer people are going to discover your work. If you post inconsistently, you're never going to collect enough data or information to see what connects. You do not ask for the sale, no one's going to buy it. You interpret a slow beginning as the final answer. So you quit before your skills or your audience have time to even develop. Then you tell yourself, I knew it wouldn't work. But did the idea fail after receiving a real attempt, or did your fear prevent you from even giving it a real attempt? It's an uncomfortable question, but it's an important one. Many women do not describe themselves as negative. They say they're being realistic. Being realistic is useful. You should consider costs, risks, time, the market demand, and your current responsibilities. You should not make every decision based on optimism alone, but pessimism can disguise itself as I'm being really practical. I'm just being realistic. Can sometimes mean I do not want to risk looking like a fool. I want a guarantee before I begin. I am comparing myself at the beginning of something with somebody else's established process. I'm using every possible obstacle as a reason not to test this idea. I would rather assume it will fail and then admit how much I want it. Realistic thinking asks, what will this require? Fear-based thinking says, this probably won't work, so there's no point in even trying. And those aren't the same thing. A realistic plan acknowledges the obstacles and identifies the next reasonable step. It does not require you to pretend everything will be easy. One of the biggest mistakes we made is waiting for people to feel completely confident before acting. Complete confidence is rarely available at the beginning because you don't even have enough evidence yet. You don't need to work long enough to know what you're capable of. You have not tested the idea. You have not developed the skills. and you haven't received enough feedback to know what people need from you. Confidence built only on positive thinking is going to be fragile. The first disappointing result can knock it completely down. A stronger kind of confidence grows from your evidence. You make the first video, you learn that you can survive being uncomfortable on camera, you publish the first article and discover that one person actually read it, you contacted a potential guest and received a yes, you make an offer and learn what questions people ask before buying. You complete 1 week of consistent action and realize that you can find time even in a busy schedule. Each action gives you a small piece of evidence. You begin trusting yourself because you've watched yourself do the difficult things. You don't need to believe, I know this will succeed. You can begin with, I believe this is worth testing, or I believe I can take one step and respond to what happens next. That is enough for a belief to take off. What happens when the results are slow? Belief becomes especially important when the results are not visible yet, and most things don't just take off. It's rare, it does happen, but for most of us, you're not going to take off overnight. Most meaningful projects have a period when you are doing the work without receiving much external confirmation. Your audience is going to be small. The downloads are limited. The business is not replacing your salary. The invitations haven't arrived. People close to you may not even fully understand what you're doing. This is where many people stop. They assume the absence of this immediate large result means the idea isn't working. And sometimes that's true. Your strategy will likely need to change. But slow progress is not automatically no progress. Early work often produces things that are difficult to measure. So in my case, I became more comfortable explaining my idea, my skills improved. I've now had this body of work both on a website and my podcast. I've become consistent. People begin noticing you before they begin responding publicly. Belief helps you continue long enough to gather meaningful information. It doesn't mean ignore the evidence. It means giving the process enough time to produce evidence before reaching your final conclusion. But your belief must be supported by behavior. If you say you believe in your idea, but you never take the time for it, and you never share it, you never develop the skills, and never risk receiving an answer, then your belief is not producing anything. At some point, belief has to become visible enough through your behavior. So you might need to reserve a couple hours a week for your project. You might need to publish consistently for 3 months before you notice anything. It might mean applying for a position before you feel completely qualified. You don't need to make a dramatic leap, but your calendar, your choices, your actions should all contain evidence that this goal matters to you. Ask yourself, if I genuinely believed this could work, what would I do differently this week? Not later on, not some other month. Not in January, this week. Would you send your email or would you finish the draft? Would you mention the service you offer? Did you think about applying to that opportunity? Would you apply to that opportunity? Would you stop changing the idea long enough to actually test it? Your answer usually shows you where the fear has been making decisions for you. Here's a practical exercise. Choose the idea, just one. It's an idea or a goal that you've been considering. Write down the discouraging belief you currently associate with it. Be specific. It might be like, nobody cares what I have to say. I'm too old to start. The market's just saturated. I don't have enough time. I'm not qualified. I'm going to lose momentum. Other people are much better at this than I am. So whatever those are, now ask yourself 3 questions. First, is this a verified fact or is this my prediction? Some obstacles are factual. Your available time and financial resources can be measured, but no one will care is usually a prediction you haven't tested. All right, second, what action would give me actual evidence? You may need to publish something or speak to a potential customer or offer a sample or try a small version of an idea. Third, what would I do this week if I believed that I had a reasonable chance of making this work? Choose a measurable action, give it a deadline, and make it small enough that you cannot use overwhelm as the next excuse. You do not have to believe that every thought attracts a matching outcome. You don't have to pretend obstacles do not exist or force yourself to feel positive every day. You're allowed to have doubts. You're allowed to be nervous. You're allowed to admit that you don't know how the story will end. But if you want to build something new, you need to have enough belief to participate fully in the attempt. Belief will not guarantee that every goal will unfold exactly as you imagine. What it can do is help you take more chances, remain visible, learn from the disappointment, adjust your approach, and continue working before the results are obvious. You don't have to say, I know this will work. Try saying, I believe this is possible and I'm willing to find out, then take the next action. If you're trying to build your next chapter while managing a full life, join the Second Act Simplified newsletter. You'll receive practical ideas for turning your goals into action, honest conversations about navigating change in midlife, and encouragement to keep moving without waiting for perfect timing or complete confidence. Join the newsletter and start building what comes next. Thanks, and see you next week.